The front door for your church online is your website, right?
Well, not entirely, because nowadays, often visitors get intercepted by your church's Google Business Profile.
You know that widget in Google Search that shows photos and your church's contact info and reviews about your church? It also shows up in Google Maps.
If you get this wrong, visitors likely won't even ever get to your website.
So today, it's Google Business Profiles for Churches, your master guide.
Well, let's dive in. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Pro Church Tool Show. We're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm Brady Shearer, your host. I'm joined as always by my co-host. We call him Pastor Peach. It's Alexander Mills.
Hello.
And today, we're tackling your church's Google Business Profile. We've got 13 items to discuss, all of which are important. Every one. And to underscore the importance of this subject, and this comes direct from Google, according to them, and they would know, visitors are 2.7 times more likely to consider an organization reputable if they find a complete business profile on Google, and 70% more likely to visit. So getting this right matters. Alex, let's start with number one.
Well, let's start at the very beginning, which is how does a church go about claiming their Google Business Profile?
Right, and we should start by saying Google Business Profile is free. Which is great. Formerly, Google My Business.
And certainly, I won't speak for you, but certainly I will refer to it as Google My Business at some point during this podcast.
Google loves to change names of stuff. I still, when I need to log in, will go to G Suite, and then they'll be like, hey, this is now called Google Workspace. And I'm like, okay, G Suite was awful, but I kind of got used to it.
It's like Twitter and X. It's still just Twitter.
Okay. So claiming your profile puts you in control of your profile in Google's database. The thing is, your church probably already exists in Google's database, even if you haven't claimed that profile. And so this is an important distinction to make from the top. Unlike a social media profile where you would go and you'd be like, I'm going to go grab a username. I'm going to create an account. Don't do that with Google Business Profile. Your church's listing almost certainly already exists because it's tied to Maps. And
Exactly.
Google needs your church to exist in Maps so that if someone wants to find your church and get directions to it, even if you haven't claimed the profile, they can do that. So you are claiming an existing profile. Now, if you're confident your church does not exist in there, we'll get to that later. That's going to be a rarity. So you're already in there. You need to claim that profile.
It's kind of a good feeling. Like when you go and it's like, I got a little rural church. Like I'm going to let Google know that I exist. And you go to start it. They're like, no, we know you're there. And you're already on our maps. We've already made this business profile for you. All you have to do is claim it.
I'm just going to read a Bible verse. This is John 14:3. And if I go and prepare a place for you. That's what Google has done. They have prepared a place for you, much like the Lord Jesus Christ.
You just need to name it and claim it.
Well,
They've
again,
named it, you claim it.
Again, you always take it a little too far, don't you? So the way that we did this is that Google sent a piece of snail mail to our physical address with a code on it. You are probably familiar with the 2FA. This is the 1FA, where they just send it to your mailbox. It's not happening digitally. And so we had this code, we put it into Google, and they said, all right, you've got the address clearly, so you have the profile. It is granted to you. Now, you might also be able to verify via phone or email. That is less likely. Almost always it happens via snail mail. And again, don't create a new listing for your church. Just make sure to claim the one that is already there.
Okay, so now you've named it. They've named it. Now you've claimed it.
See, that's different. You don't name and claim. The Lord names and then we claim.
Right.
Thank God. A lot of parallels here.
So now you own it. You've got ability to make changes to your Google Business Profile. It's time to fill in your profile. Where are we starting?
So let's start with the basic info that you can do right away. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. If you already have a Google Business Profile and you're like, I want to get to the good stuff, this is for you now. This is the time where you actually go and check. You probably filled this out a long time ago. Make sure it's still accurate, okay? If you're filling it out for the first time, go through these items. If you already have it, go check.
I went through my Google Business Profile about a year ago and spent maybe half a day working on it, doing really good work on it. And then in preparation for this episode, I went back and noticed there was a couple new features from Google that they had released in the last year or so. I was able to make some updates. So you're right. if you've already claimed your Google Business Profile, if you've already filled out your profile, it's time to log in. Do it right now. Don't go to G Suite because that's not a thing. Go to I don't know how to get there, but go there. Go to Google and follow along with these steps, and maybe you'll find something that is a new feature since the last time you've been in your Google Business Profile.
Best thing about G Suite is when you Google it, Google will run a Google ad to Google Workspace and say, "Do you mean this? Like, why are you running an ad?" They're like, because the integrity of search. It's like, all right, if you say so. So, name of the church.
Easy.
Straightforward. Address. Super important because the button on your Google Business Profile that says get directions will obviously be linked to your address. So if this is incorrect, and sometimes this can happen if your church has a listing created by Google.
Right.
Like this happens with my house all the time. I believe I have one postal code. Google believes it's something else.
What is the record of truth? Who
That's
really
the
knows?
thing with these new developments. Google's like, I don't know, man. You're new and I don't trust you. Hours of operation. Description for your church. Phone number, email address, links to social profiles, link to your website, and really important, category. Now, you are almost certainly going to be able to choose multiple categories. The primary category is the one that you want to pay the most attention to. You can choose church, but you can even be more specific than that and choose non-denominational church, Pentecostal church, Baptist church, kind of your preference. Broadly speaking with Google, the more specific you can get, the better.
I just went with church on mine, but that last phrase you just used made me...
That's exactly what a non-denominational church would do.
Yes. Maybe I'm going to reconsider. Okay. The quickest podcast ever, already 9 items deep. But we've only covered the basics so far. So if we really want to make our Google Business Profile, make that great first impression, because this is how folks, when they search your church in Google, this is usually like one of the first things they're seeing. So if we want to make a great first impression, connect our ministry to new visitors, still a number of crucial things and changes, additions we need to make to our profile. So what's next?
Right. Next up, we have photos. And I just want to read you aloud the photography guide that we provide to photographers when we send them to visit churches and capture photos, because I think it kind of paints the picture of the kind of photos that we want to populate our Google Business Profile with. So, quote, "A successful church photo shoot is all about capturing the organic nature of church life with an emphasis on the people." End quote. Now, there is going to be an important distinction for Google Business Profile that would be slightly different than a typical weekend church photo shoot. But I've got a shot list already here, and I would recommend all of these items be included in your Google Business Profile. Here we go. First up, authentic moments of worship. This is going to depend on if you are an unlisted, non-denominational church like Pastor Peach over here.
That's right.
Or maybe you're a little bit more reserved. Maybe you are, high church, something a little bit different. But authentic moments of worship, eyes closed, hands raised, prayer, band on stage, whatever it might be. Authentic moments of human interaction. So this is folks talking and smiling, conversations in the lobby, real interactions with people, and set up a nice long lens in your camera, stand 20, 30 feet away. So you're not interfering, so you're not interrupting, and you just got that shutter speed going real quick, Oh, wow. Those photos, those people look a little bit funny. Now there's a golden one. That belongs on the Google Business Profile. Next up, authentic moments of people moving around the church. So just capturing that motion. So entering the building, entering the sanctuary, mingling in the lobby, the flow of people brushing shoulders with each other. One of the best parts of a Sunday morning service, every time I go to church, I feel it's just like the kinetic energy of people all together. And everyone got ready, and we're all there for a shared purpose. And I love capturing that kinetic energy because it's quite rare. It's quite rare.
Where 2 or more are gathered, as they say.
Oh, so now you're the one reading the Bible verses.
Listen.
Well, prepare a place. Something to think about. Next up, pastor preaching and people listening. Here's the important one that is most important for Google Business Profile. Exterior shots of the building and parking lot. Why does this matter? Because when people are looking up a listing on Google, whether in search or maps, they want to know, okay, if I'm going to get directions here, what does the exterior look like? When I'm trying to find a restaurant, like, I know what it looks like on the inside, but like, is this in a shopping mall?
Totally.
Is it its own building? What part of town is it in? what does their signage look like? So that when I'm trying to find a parking spot, I'm like, oh, okay, there it is down there. We went down to Toronto not so recently, and we were trying to find our parking garage, and they had this really great picture of the exterior because the way to get into the parking garage was to turn down this somewhat questionable alley. And thankfully, we had seen the picture ahead of time, so when we got to that, we did not miss our turn, and we were able to find the questionable lobby and then go up the even more questionable elevator to exit.
We survived to tell the tale.
Praise God.
Hey, this is so important. I actually noticed on my Google business profile is that Google is telling you this is so important because if you don't have an exterior photo, they will actually add one for you from Google Maps.
Oh.
And so they did that to my Google business profile, but it's important that I add my own because our church is in rural Niagara. We're on country roads. And on one side, we're on a corner lot. On one side of the corner lot is a row of cedar trees. They kind of function like windbreakers for our property.
I'm looking at it.
And Google took the photo from the street with the cedars. So the photo is just cedars. You can see the peak of our building. So I actually added another photo, an exterior photo of the front sign from the corner where you can actually see the building.
I see that too.
Yes.
And what's great is I just looked it up and I'm looking at it all right now on my phone. And praise God for Pastor Peach and Alex over here because it's all there. I've got interior, exterior, I've got people, I've got kids, I've got movement, and that's outstanding.
You'll notice that the photos that I uploaded to my Google Business profile are also a good mix of like DSLR photos and iPhone photos.
Oh, yeah.
I did that on purpose because I wanted the iPhone photos to get the feel that like, oh, someone from the church took these photos. This is like an organic moment that maybe a parishioner just captured, and it wasn't like a curated moment with a professional photographer.
Yeah, and you can sort in photos by owner, all, or street view and 360.
There you go. That's the street view one I was referencing.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Is it possible to upload too many photos, do you think?
Too many photos.
Like what's the sweet spot for photos on Google Business?
Well, let me tell you about restaurants. When I'm looking up a restaurant and I'm in their Google Business profile and I want to see what their food looks like, I'm just going to keep scrolling.
Right.
And I'll just scroll and scroll and scroll. The thing about Google is they're going to truncate the visibility of those photos in search. And so what matters is the right photos are being shown first.
Yeah.
And you're not getting like a really deep photo that doesn't bear too much consequence as like that lead photo. And aside from that, no, don't think you can put too many in there. Recognize that most people won't get there, but for the few that want to, so long as they're not redundant, if we're hitting this shot list and we still have a few more on there, we're set.
So the only way you can err is by not having enough, you think?
Yeah, correct. Or by having too much of one type of photo and neglecting one of these important parts. Like if you had all interior stuff and only had that 360 view, but even just think about what Google has done with, Alex's church's listing. They've made sure, I don't know what you're uploading, church, but we're going to show the outside because people need to see the outside. That's the only photo that Google Maps is generating for the Google Business profile. We talked about exterior shots. Let's talk about details. So a church pew, cup of coffee, stack of bulletins, anything that just provides like a little bit of that specific, kind of just like it's a color commentary for the church. And then finally, a mix of portrait and landscape orientation. Those last two items there, really just kind of like bonuses. If you don't have that mix, so be it. If you didn't have a picture of a communion cup on your Google Business profile, we'll survive.
Can you upload videos?
You can. You can. That's right. And people that visit your church can upload as well.
Right.
So this happens with restaurants, right? I don't want to look at the shot that the restaurant took of there. Oh, well, yeah, we had someone that came in and professionally plated our food to take photos for our Google Business profile. It's like, no. It's Thursday night. It's a busy, and here's what the poutine looked like. Here were the crab cakes. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I'm getting.
Exactly.
That's the real stuff. Now, interestingly, we talked earlier about hours of operation, and this is going to be different for different churches. So, for example, I recommend that you would have your hours of operation including office hours. So your Sunday hours are there, but if your office is open, like many are, Monday to Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, have those in there as well. If your church doesn't own your building and you're renting, just have the service hours. You don't want someone showing up to the junior high school or to the church that you rent the building on Saturday nights, and they're like, hi, I'm here for Life Abundant. They're like, this is Life Non-Abundant at this church. You have your hours of operation only on Sunday, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Would love to hear
Yeah, I mean, our service starts at 10:30. It's usually over by 11:30, so our service is usually an hour. This is where I got a little frustrated with Google Business Profile. Is it's catered towards like regular businesses, and churches are not that, and so we don't have open office hours at our church. Even though we do own our building, we're just a small rural church, so we don't have open office hours. So I felt a little bit handcuffed in that situation, which is like, okay, we're only open on Sundays, and our service is from 10:30 to 11:30. But I want people to know that there are people here before service, and people like to linger a little bit longer after service. So I put 10 to 1, just kind of adding some safe margin to the hours where the doors are actually open and unlocked. But although we own our building, we don't have open office hours, so that's why I went with that.
Understood. That makes sense. Final bit on photos. This comes again straight from Google. Profiles that have photos receive 42% more requests for directions on Google Maps and 35% more clicks through to their websites than profiles that do not include photos.
Wow, there it is.
We talk about church web design, the importance of big photo containers that can communicate in an instant what paragraphs worth of text would be able to communicate. Just as true with Google Business Profile. And what's great is if you do redesign your church's website and you do invest in big photo containers, well, you've already got the photos. The photos that you have on your profile, I recognize from your website. And so they were there.
Right.
Many of them are also on the Google Business Profile. If you're looking for a new church website, we're giving 1,000 church websites free makeovers by the end of 2025. Just go to nucleus.church, click on the big button, free makeovers, join the waiting list. We are inviting 5 new churches per day, I believe, right now, into the makeover program. First thing that we do is we send a photographer straight to your church to capture a weekend service. We give them the same shot list that I just read out loud. And you get those photos to keep. We put them on your website, and we reveal the website to you. Move that bus. You get to see the website. But then you also get to keep those photos in a gallery that we prepare for you. Again, we go ahead and prepare that gallery for you. That's the same. I'm going to call back. Come on. Anyway, you get to use those photos for whatever you want. So you could use them. We would very much recommend that you use them in your Google Business Profile.
Okay, next up, we have reviews.
Reviews. Ask for reviews. Respond to reviews. Fill up your reviews. This is so, so important. Nothing is a bigger red flag when you are evaluating listings on Google Maps, on Google Business Profile, than when you go and it's just like radio silence. That is very, very, very strange. And so you can just go directly to people and say, hey, please leave a review. And make sure, like, you don't need 100. If you're a smaller church, half a dozen, a dozen, but you just need something there to basically check that box. In the same way, having 0 photos is a massive red flag. She's like, hey, just take some iPhone photos. Like, the Google Street View is going to show up anyway. It's not like you need to capture these outstanding things. Just hit that shot list that we mentioned, but you got to have reviews. So those just 3 rules for reviews. Ask for them. Respond to reviews that come in.
Yes.
So the ones that just come in, whether you've asked for them or not, and especially if they're negative, respond. And then finally, just fill up your reviews. Make sure there's half a dozen at least.
That's something I haven't done, is responded to the reviews. We have some reviews on our profile. Now, I've said this a bunch of times on the show. We are a small rural church, and there is 2 of them here we have 8 reviews. 2 of them are from people who belong to our church. The other 6, I actually don't recognize the names. So they must have been folks we live in a tourist area, who just came through and decided out of the goodness of their heart to review our church. On our Google Business Profile, it also has a link it says reviews from the web. And it has kind of collated the reviews for our church from Facebook, which is interesting. It kind of just did that on its own. I'm not sure if you have any control over that. So Google is kind of scrubbing the web, looking for your social profile, seeing if there are reviews there, and then putting them onto your Google Business Profile. So we have some reviews linked to Facebook there as well.
Just going to read this review from Ben Adams. 5 stars.
Not a congregant.
5 stars. Ken, last name redacted, although this is public information. A member of this great church was very helpful to me when my car broke down on the highway. That attitude was Christ-like, and I would recommend this church to everyone because of that selfless act by Ken. God bless Ken and this great church. Ben
never came to our church. He just got blessed by Ken.
Ken blessed Ben.
To our church. Wow.
So you know Ken. You don't know Ben.
Don't know Ben, but I do know Ken.
This is like the best review any church has ever received. It's like, first of all, I don't go to this church. I don't know anything about this church. But the people of this church are so like Christ that this church must be great.
Wow. Shout out to Ken. I guess in that exchange just dropped our church's name. Like,
Wow.
save the guy on the highway and said, by the way, I go to this church.
Like, do you think he just had like a card? Like, parishioner,
Yes,
life abundant.
yes.
That's amazing.
That's pretty good stuff. Not a paid actor.
A great place for families as well as singles. That's
Wow.
pretty good. Kathleen, 4 stars.
No,
Nothing else.
not quite 5.
Just
That's good enough.
4 stars.
None of these folks are paid actors. This is great stuff.
I don't know. This
I'm
whole
feeling
Ken
that.
Ben thing. It's like, oh, well, I mean, my name's Ken and I helped a guy named Ben. Oh, and you know what? Shouts to Pastor Glenn.
Pastor before my dad at our church, Pastor Glenn. No word of a lie.
Okay, so this church, okay, I'm looking at my church's reviews
Okay.
now. Okay, so this first one is 1 star from a couple months ago. I'm not going to read the review. It's like,
Because of all the profanity.
used to go here, they expanded, the old church
Okay.
felt more genuine and spiritual. Can I just say, I like the new church better. It feels more genuine and spiritual to me. It has a photo of AI Jesus attached to the review.
Wow.
And then my church responded to it. Praise God.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, this review is seemed as most relevant. And I feel like it might be because of this giant
Picture.
photo.
Yeah.
That seems unfair, Google business profile. You're acting like Google My Business right now. All right, reviews. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Make sure to get them. Go right now. Check. Have
Yeah.
you not responded to any? You know? Kathleen, 4 stars. What could we have done better?
Yeah.
Sir, this was from 5 years ago. Yeah, we're just checking in.
Yeah.
We're just checking in.
Yeah. Just doing our due diligence.
But that negative one, like my church responded.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yes.
You need to show and demonstrate, one, that you can respond to a review.
Well, because that one showed up first, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be silent. What's also important about reviews is sometimes, often, your church will get left a review that is, quite frankly, maniacal. It's chaotic. It's clearly strange. It's important that your church responds to that review to basically demonstrate that they're crazy and you're not.
Right.
Right?
If you don't respond when someone lands on it, it's like, is this church crazy?
Like sometimes people leave us a negative review. And it's almost always a misunderstanding or like for the wrong company.
Definitely the wrong company.
This company did not supply my walkie-talkie. And I'll be like, this is a church website builder.
Yeah.
And I'll be tactful about it. I'm not trying to like slam them. I'm not trying to be like, yeah, in your face. But it's more just to be like, hey, like if you read this, prospective person, it's not for them. It's not for the person you're responding to. It's for anyone that's reading that review in the future. Like, oh, this church responded in a very gentle but straightforward way. They have shown themselves to be reasonable and measured. This review has shown itself to be not reasonable and measured. If you don't respond, the only person that gets a voice is the unreasonable and the unmeasured people.
Wow. Okay, this next one, which is the last one, is the one that I had to make some edits to on my
We got 2
Google
more, big
business
boy.
profile. Oh, special considerations.
In a big way.
Of course. Okay, so number 13 though, questions and answers.
Yeah. Is this one of the features that you found to be newer when you visited?
I didn't know if it was newer or if I just overlooked it before, but this is the one that I made edits to in preparation for this podcast.
Were you able to ask questions and then answer them yourself?
That's how I did it.
Okay. Okay. So there are multiple ways that this can happen.
Yeah.
A visitor or observer can ask a question.
Sure.
So on my churches, we have like, hey, is there stuff here for kids? And then my church went in and answered. What you can also do is take copy from your website if you have a plan a visit page or a plan a visit flow sequence of some kind. If you have an about us page, you can take the copy there and basically port it over to your Google business profile.
That's exactly what I did.
So I have 4 questions that you could definitely add. I think would be a good fit for most churches. To taste. Number 1, what should I wear? Number 2, when are service times? Yes, those might already be there, but it's one of those things where the most important information, it's okay to place in multiple spots.
Yes.
Here's an example of this from our business. On every one of our product pages in the nav menu, of which there are only 3 to 6 items, there will be one link to pricing. If we only left it in the pricing page, we would get 1,000 emails per day of what's your pricing.
Yeah.
It's a miracle, frankly. So we put it on a lot of different places across the website. And guess what? We still get 100 emails a day. What's your pricing? What more could I do? I'm not sure. If I'm missing something, please send your snail mail to our address. You can find it on Google Business Profile.
Yes, you can.
And leave a review. You know, we're not a real business online because Pro Church Tools Inc. is like not a product. It's just like our parent company. But let's see what the Google Business Profile has to say about Pro Church Tools Inc. before we get into special considerations.
Well, it definitely has our address.
Yeah.
It has a phone number that may or may not be linked to a phone line.
But that address is our real address.
Yep.
And people come and visit us in person,
do.
and it's always nice.
Has a nice picture of our office. Before any work was really being done here, the office was designed and curated by a design firm. And before we messed it all up, there's a nice photo there.
Yeah, there's the nice one. Okay, we have 8 reviews. Most relevant review, 5 stars. Jake Goslin, church front.
A paid actor.
I approve of this institution. Thanks,
Jake.
We appreciate it. Questions and answers. You can respond to ones that come in. You can create your own and answer them. Service times should be in there. How long is service? I like that one. You know, like even Alex just saying out loud there, yeah, our hours of operation are 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. on his Google Business Profile. He's like, yeah, service is typically starting at 10:30 over by 11:30. Like when he said that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. An interesting tidbit of information.
Right.
It just stood out to me.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's useful information.
Yeah.
Put that in the question and answer.
Now, what's interesting is I'm on mobile right now looking at our Google Business Profile. I'm not seeing question and answers, but on
only on
desktop, you
desktop.
do see it.
Yeah. Curious. Google also advertises their own services on Google. So, you know. Final question here. Do you have stuff for kids?
Yeah.
Filling that in. Okay.
What about special considerations? Do you have any?
Special considerations. We already talked about hours of operations. Hours of operation. If you're a church that rents a building, only put in your service times, or if you don't have open office hours, like Alex. If you are multi-campus, this is important, you will want a Google Business Profile for each individual campus. Why? Because, yes, you might be one church with multiple locations, but you do indeed have multiple locations. And each of those locations needs to show up on Google Maps and thus would necessitate its own Google Business Profile.
And to the very first thing we talked about, it already is showing up on Google Maps, right? Like the Google Business Profile works backwards from the physical location on the map, and so it makes sense. If you have 3 physical locations, you need 3 physical profiles.
Yeah, like imagine if McDonald's
Had one Google Business
no,
Profile.
it's in Kentucky.
And they're closed today.
God, that's unfortunate. Why are they open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? Strange. And then finally, we didn't talk about this, but you can publish posts to your Google Business Profile, similar to like a status update on an old Facebook page.
Yeah.
So I just don't want anyone to stress about this if you're not doing it. We've touched on a lot of items, and most of these are worth considering. Do it one time, and then check up on it 24 months from now. Posting as an ongoing thing, I feel like that could just be one more added burden to churches that are listening and be like, it's one
You're
more
gonna
thing.
post on Google now? Are you kidding me?
Didn't we do this before? And
Yeah.
then like, what was it called? It shut down. It's like, no. We're not talking about Google Plus. We're talking about G Suite. So you can post to Google Business Profile. Businesses, the best advice is like if you're doing a big promotion, that's when you'd want to post that.
Sure.
Similarly, if you're a church, my advice to you would be if you want to post, do it when you have bridge events that are happening. So for instance, we're recording this in the summer. You got a big VBS that you know a lot of people from the community are connected to. That's a great thing to post. Christmas, Easter, when you know people are doing extra Google searches, make sure it is crystal clear what you have going on. Anything that intersects with what your church has going on and then the community's needs. If you have stuff that's just like new sermon series, like I wouldn't recommend posting that because every time you do post on Google Business Profile, it dilutes the other posts. Not true with photos. Post all the photos, make sure the important ones are showing up where they need to show up at the top. But if someone's looking for like Christmas and Easter and that's what they're trying to find, and it's just like, oh, we got prayer night on Wednesday. And it's like now suddenly what people are actually going to Google Business Profile to find, they can't find it. People aren't going to figure out like, do you have prayer service this Thursday night? Like, is the youth car wash going on? Car wash, maybe bridge event, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, at those bridge event times of the year, Halloween for trunk or treat, Christmas, Easter.
We prefer Harvest Festival.
Sorry. We'll just stick with Christmas and Easter. Those are the times where folks, maybe who aren't new to the area, but folks are just like getting the itch, like, I should go to church. So they search church near me around Christmas time. if your event is there, your post is there saying, oh, this is when Christmas Mass is, or this is when our Christmas candlelight service is, that's relevant information for folks who are looking for a church at that time. But like you said, you really don't want to inundate the Google Business Profile with a bunch of events and stuff, because the main call to action, which is your website, is there, and that's where all of that information should be accessible at all times. The Google Business Profile is super handy for the basics. I need to know where the church is, what the service time is, what denomination they belong to, and what it looks like.
Google Business Profile for churches, the master guide, 13 items, 14 items?
13 and a half, yeah.
13 and a half items that you need to consider. Go fill it out, and your church will be better for it. And thank you for your time, attention, and trust. We'll be back next Wednesday. Talk to you then. What fruit are in season?
I mean, it's peaches. I took a picture of a peach to send it to you and say, this just gave me Jangle Jaw.
Oh, Jingle Jaw. Jingle Jaw!
And I made the mistake of eating that in the car.
I'm so happy you remembered Jingle Jaw, because that's like,
I think about it all the time.
such a good word.
Well, that's why I took this picture, because I took the bite of the peach. It was so acidic, and that was the first thing I thought of. Oh, my jaw.
We're going with Jingle or Jangle? What was it?
I could
Jingle.
never remember. Jingle Jaw. Great. Love it.
It jingles.
Yeah. I was jingling. I'm jingling.